Well, welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wiggin. The last Train Tuesday of, well, not the year, but last Train Tuesday until we head out into October. We do that because honestly, we don't have a lot of live participation through the months of May through September. So we take a break. However, you can watch Train Tuesday still every Tuesday, even though it's pre recorded. We'll be dropping new videos every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time on our YouTube channel. So you can always look forward to that to keep up with what's going on in Athearn. So, with that, let's go ahead and see who is joining us on this last live of this season. I see DG Model Works has joined us. He is in the house. Ronald, Canadian Locomotive Logistics. Charles is here. Benjamin here from Chillicothe. Anthony, Harold, Abel, Jason, Zed, John, and David, just to name a few from all over. So glad to have you on board here tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit different. Maybe not Train Tuesday, more like Truck Tuesday. We've got some stuff coming in. Actually, we do have some of these items already available in stock at hobby shops. They just started shipping on Friday. And some other ones that are going to be joining us shortly. So we're going to be talking about the the F-850 stake truck, as well as some 40-foot Fruehauf trailers in both HO and N scale. So nobody is left out tonight. So before we get started, let's go ahead and get another round of shout outs going. I see Eric has joined us from Indianapolis, and George, Robin, DG Model Works saying hey to everybody. John is here as well. We've got about 82 modelers here online with us. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with some model train goodness. We're going to be talking HO tonight, as well as N scale. But we're going to be starting with these Ford F-850s. So a little bit of history on these. Now the F series has been around since the 1940s for Ford. And in 1968, they came out with this model of the F-850. Pretty classic cab. They kept this cab well into the 70s. So a point of reference for you guys that are modeling, if you're modeling late 1960s, say 1968, all the way through the 1970s, into the 80s, and yes, even in some cases the 90s, and in my case, in rural Illinois, even present day 2025, there's one of these in central Illinois, not far from me, parked for sale. The wife has told me no more cars, so I will not pursue buying it. However, this is one of those trucks that just doesn't seem to go away. Now, these were just rock solid trucks. They were a product of their time, pretty simple. And as a result, a lot of railroads used them, a lot of grain elevators used them, a lot of farmers used them. They had a really nice, long utilitarian life. And so for this one, we've got a bunch of new versions coming in. These are going to be in stock here real soon. In fact, I think they just started shipping from our distribution center on Friday. Now, before I go any further, I do want to remind everybody we'll have time for questions after the show. So if you got some questions, try to hang on to those after the show, after the presentation, and we'll answer as many of those as possible. So first one up, this is Prime for Grime. And what's really cool about this is really perfect for anybody that's watching. This is 1970s into the 1980s. Its color is kind of faded out. It's kind of that Ford green that was popular in 68. And if you look carefully on the driver's side, the fender is a primer gray. Now, these are really cool. They got a lot of detail, a little bit of weathering, and this thing will look perfect on any scene on your HO layout or module. 1990s, believe it or not. This is Southern Pacific. Yeah, some of the railroads did use these. Why stake trucks? They could put LP canisters in there. They could use them for different maintenance away type things. You could use them for just about everything. Yes, Terry LaFrance, they've been used for, the platform's been used for everything from fire trucks to grain trucks to stake trucks to flatbed trucks. I think there was even a song written about one of these. So yes, Terry, yes, grain trucks. I'm seeing the comments because I'm doing this one loose. I'm pretty familiar with Ford products since I used to sell them. So I'm watching those and I'm just going off the script tonight. Remember too, guys, I see a lot of questions out there. Wait till the end of the presentation. We'll get to those, trust me. So anyways, this is Southern Pacific 1990s era. We've got a couple other railroad ones that we're going to be offering as well. And again, these are coming soon, if not already shipping. So these aren't pre-orders. These are actual models that are going to be here. Obviously, this Cascade Green Burlington Northern, 1970s. Now, that doesn't mean it wouldn't exist in the 1980s. Again, like the locomotives and the rolling stock of the railroads they served, these things tended to last for many, many, many years. We really wouldn't see a lot of these get updated until the 90s into the 2000s. But for the 70s, 80s, these were all over the place. Going back to the original 1968 when these trucks were new, Western Maryland. Sharp looking truck with that bright red paint scheme. Again, another one, 1968 with the Buzzsaw logo. This is the Missouri Pacific. Complete in Jenks blue. I know there's Southern fans out there. I know our viewer David is probably somewhere in the audience tonight. He's a big Southern Railway fan. We have Southern as well. Again, this is 1968 all the way up to whenever. Your layout, you can make it last as long as you want. I can tell you with mine, I'm modeling roughly the 1990s in HO, and Conrail still got one or two of these. And then last but not least, this is a color that is so common with Ford products in the 1960s. In the early 1960s, Ford had a color called tropical teal. Now, tropical teal was a little bit more blue than this teal that we're showing you here. It was a turquoise blue color. They applied them to everything from Ford Falcons to Galaxies, Thunderbirds, and eventually, yes, even the Mustang. That color was really popular from the 1962 roughly to about 1965, 66. By 1968, though, a lot of those tropical colors were starting to kind of go by the wayside, and they started kind of leaning more towards some industrial colors, if you will. And this is one of those colors. We call it teal, but it's the Ford color is something like, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is a color that it seems like when I was a kid, you saw it everywhere. Military base walls were painted something like this. But this was one of those colors that Ford offered in the late 1960s into the 1970s, as well as your standard white, black, red, those type of fleet colors. Many farms would sometimes order trucks like this, and sometimes those larger farms would have their own colors. So they would stick with something like this. This is what it would look like in 1968. Not quite a Penn Central green, close mark, but you know what? It could be a Penn Central that's been weathered. So go ahead, throw some Penn Central logos on there. You just gave me an idea and use it for that. Or if you just want a brand new 1968 F-850 on your module or layout, here's your chance. Now let's talk about the features of these. These are HO scale. They've actually got quite a bit of detail to them, and they're a great starting point. I've seen a lot of guys at prototype meets really amp up the scale factor on these. Out of the box, they look great. So they're factory assembled. A lot of those detail parts that you see, like the you see the blinkers on the fenders. See, there's my New England coming out. Sorry for you folks in the Midwest, that's called indicators. That's on the fenders. You also see your A-frame mirrors are on there. Your drivetrain is already in there. You've also got a molded cab interior with the separately applied steering wheel and clear window glazing. You also have rubber tires. So, since this is a Ford licensed model, you can see the price there. You can go to our website. You can check that price out. You can also go to the original PDF. These were announced about a little over a year ago, probably about 18 months ago. and the price hasn't changed on these. So if you want to take advantage of these trucks, I would contact your dealer now. Now's a good time to get these. Now keep in mind that the Prime for Grime is a little bit more expensive because there's a little bit more work to do with them. But if you're a truck guy like me and you want some of these for your layout, you can definitely look at some aftermarket companies that provide detail parts for these and really do some weathering, really do some painting, really do some nice stuff. And it's really cool to see some of all of the uh, variations I've seen at RM meets. So there you have it. There's the HO scale F-850. Let's switch gears a little bit to 18 wheeler size stuff, and let's talk about 40-foot Fruehauf trailers. Now we're going to be offering these in HO and N. Now I can tell you the HO scale ones have shipped from our distribution center. I've gotten notifications from some of the larger hobby shops that these are indeed in stock. Another thing that you're going to want to remember is that these are available in 2 road numbers per road name. So here we've got Conrail. This is a late 1970s. If you're as old as I am, you probably remember seeing some of these on some TOFC trains. The old trail van is really common for 1970s into the early 80s. We're going to also offer CRZ 201013 on top of the one that you see on your screen here. Again, this is available with HO, which is available now, and N scale hopefully will be available sometime this summer. Illinois Central. Now this one, I've got a really soft spot for this. When I go rail fanning every year with my buddy, we go on the Transcon, and we actually go right by a few of you's working areas that watch the program. We go through Toluca, we go through a little town called Washburn, and unless you're from Illinois, you probably don't know where that is. We go through Chillicothe and onwards to Galesburg. Somewhere between Toluca and Washburn is an Illinois Central piggyback trailer just like this, albeit extremely weathered, and it's got weeds growing around it. Now, I took pictures of it about 3 or 4 years ago. I looked on my computer. I wanted to find it so I could share it with you. Unfortunately, it was buried in so many prototype photos. I didn't have time to dig it out. But these are really cool, and I remember seeing these when I was younger. Now, the Illinois Central Piggy, as you call it, is going to be available in 2 road numbers. And of course, we're going to do these in HO, which are available now, and the N scale. These will have rubber tires in both HO and N scale. And if you look at the landing gear, remember the 40 size trailers, you could still have them in the shoe type or the wheel type as the Illinois Central here is showing. All right, up next, 1970s era cotton belt. Going to do 2 road numbers with this as well. You can see that has the shoe type. Now, one thing I do want to let you know too is when you buy these trailers, they come with 2 sets of landing gear legs. One that are already, for the up position when it's being transported by a tractor, and the lower ones that you can set at a factory, distribution center, things of that nature. Late 1970s, we've got Extra. A lot of you guys probably remember these. 2 road numbers in this as well. Again, HO and N scale. And yes, the wheels do move. Maybe somebody's thinking about doing an RC conversion. That has been done, but for the most part, I really don't care as long as it looks good on the layout. A Ramier Express Lines. Is that how you say it, folks? Ramier? That's how I'm going to say it. Ramier Express Lines. 1970s era. You'll notice this one's a rib one, like the Illinois Central as well. Again, these are the Fruehaufs. Now, if you know anything about trucking, you'll know that the 1970s Fruehauf was pretty much dominating the truck scene. 40-foot trailers were pretty much standard from the 60s all through the 70s. And even though the 45s came about in the mid-70s, the 40s continued in popularity for a while, mainly because before 1980, you could only haul, depending on what you had for a tractor, a 40 or a 45 foot before you hit your length limits. So if you had what they call a conventional tractor, which is hood, cab, and maybe a sleeper. The length that you could pull with that truck until 1980 was a 40-foot trailer. However, if you had a cab over or a flat nose or a snub nose, however you want to call it, that tractor was on top of its engine and transmission. So there was no hood in front of it. It could carry, or rather, it could haul a 45-foot trailer. Now, of course, after 1980, that all changed, and you don't see as many cab overs as you did in the 1970s and 1980s. But and these 40-foot trailers slowly started to go by the wayside. Probably by the mid 1980s, we started to see 48-foot trailers, and then finally in the 1990s, 53-foot trailers. These are pretty much perfect for those modelers that are modeling 1970s into the early 1980s. So speaking of 1980s, we do have one for the 1980s. We've got two actually, because remember, these are going to come with two road numbers. Leiden Transport. Now, Alaska fans, you're probably going to blow me up in the comments down there. Well, Linden is probably how you pronounce it. I don't know why I said Leiden, but I might as well trigger a few people while I'm at it. Linden Transport. This is a 1980s era trailer van. And again, we're going to offer this in two different road numbers as well as HO and N scale. Now let's talk a little bit about some features. So we'll start with the HO scale. And again, these are in stock at most of the large hobby shops. We just started shipping them on Friday. Separately applied mud flaps. Somebody had noted that in the comments. Does this have separately applied mud flaps? Yes, it does. They do have rubber tires. They do spin. I can tell you, I've got some on the layout here behind me. They have either a 2 or a 4-door rod per the prototype. So if you look at the rear doors, depending on the prototype, depending on what it hauled, it would either have a 2 or 4-door rods per again, based on prototype. Like I was talking about earlier, you've got the wheeled or the shoe style landing gear. That's again based on the prototype. You'll also notice that we have smooth sides as well as a rib side, like the Illinois Central you see on your screen right now. Now, the good thing about these, if you're like me and you're pressed for time, is they come ready to roll out of the package. You don't have to do anything. See, Eric's already blowing me up on the comments on how to say that Linden. I'm just going to say Leiden just to trigger people. They're ready to go right out of the package. However, most of you are probably going to want to weather these a little bit, give them a little bit of road grime, make them a little bit more convincing. However, out of the package, they look great. Basically, highly detailed. You can kind of see the detail that's been put into these. Now, these are newer molds. These aren't old blue box or anything like that. These are newer molds. They've got a lot more detail than they had in the past. And because of the injection molding process, there's a lot of things that we're able to get molded in there for detail. Now, N scale guys, you're not alone. You don't miss out on a lot of the details. I've actually got one here behind me on my layout, but it's so tiny that you can't see it. But I'll bring it up to the camera anyways, just so you can see. This is from a previous run. I really like the detail on these. Now, since an N scale, I'm modeling 1975 to 1983, these are very appropriate. See, an N scale, you still have your mud flaps that are separate. You still have rubber tires. Depending on the prototype, you're going to have a smooth side or a beaded side. So if you get the Illinois Central, it's going to have the beaded side. If you get the Linden Transport, it's going to be a smooth side. And of course, these are fully assembled. I've not even weathered this one. This is probably from 3 runs ago. I just haven't had time to do anything with it. And again, like the HO, they're fully assembled. They're ready to go out of the box. Definitely want to do some weathering on these though, because these didn't stay clean forever. So there you have it. Now again, I put the prices on here this week because there's been a little bit of confusion. If you go to our website, if you go to the links in the description below, it'll take you right to our website. It will also take you right to the PDF, and you'll see the prices haven't changed much. I'll let you do that research. Now's the time to get these in because we don't know what's going on with tariffs. So there you have it. We've got HO scale F-850s. Those are shipping, I believe, since last Friday. And we've got the HO scale 40-foot Fruehaufs. Those are shipping as well. N scale guys, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. I think the current ETA on those is in July. That's what we're looking for. So there you have it. Kind of, no freight cars or locomotives tonight, but I did want to let you know what is coming. It's not always going to be Genesis locomotives. I want everybody to know what's coming, so that way you get a nice, well-rounded, look at what Athearn is offering. And it just happens to be that we just started shipping these on Friday. Let's see. George says, I did see a cab over today since you were speaking of them, but it was hauling a 40-foot dump trailer. That's cool. You don't see many of them. In fact, I think Kenworth discontinued the Aerodyne, which was the same truck as BJ and the Bear. If you remember that, you're old, by the way. I think they stopped making those in 2002. You might have to fact check me on that because I'm not sure. Sid wants to know, when will the new announcements be coming out? Well, I don't know, and neither does my boss, and neither does the CEO of Horizon know. Nobody knows. So here's what's going on. Last week, we pretty much got a lot of people on social media something to do, something to talk about, and that was we announced that there will not be any May announcements. Why is that? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, there's been a lot going on between the United States and China. And that is kind of a battle of tariffs right now. And both sides right now, they're trying to get the other side to see their way of things. Now, I don't want this to turn political. And I will be honest, I have been deleting a lot of comments and I've been banning a lot of people because we're just telling you what we're dealing with. This is not a political thing. We're just reacting to what we're being faced with. This is uncharted waters for us. We've never been here before. Until there is news and solid proof of these tariffs going through or some type of progress, and there are actual numbers in which we can actually formulate a cost of how much our goods are going to be, there's no sense in us to keep doing announcements. Because if we were to do those announcements, you, of course, would want a price on that. You deserve that because you're placing your budget on that. But we can't do that without numbers. And those numbers are going to come after the two sides come to an agreement on what the tariffs are going to be. So for right now, we're kind of holding out to see what the two powers that be meet in the middle and get those facts in front of us so that we can prepare new models for you. Another question that we're getting as well is that going to delay production of stuff that we've already announced? I can tell you at this point, I don't know. I talked to my boss about it this morning, and we don't know. Again, we've never been here before. No manufacturer has been. So, yeah, there's a possibility, but until we have more facts, until this runs longer, we don't know. Now, we are talking to our factory. They are doing what they can. And we are hoping that this is resolved soon so that we can get product back to us as well as you, and that we can just kind of look back on this as a interesting time in our history. So let's see what else we've got. Hopefully that clears up a lot. Like I said, there's no new announcements. This is going to have to blow over until we can do something. So Terry, I don't want to sound mean, but I'm going to kind of hit you with some facts. He wants to know, Jim, since there's no new announcement, will this affect the price of the previously announced product and will expedite those pre-orders? Okay, again, we don't know. Okay, I can't put a price on something until I have somebody say this is what the tariff's going to be. That could be 3%, 45%, 145%. We don't know. Until we actually have a number that's not just a bargaining tool, we're not going to make any decisions. Is that going to affect new announcements? Yeah, again, we're not going to place new announcements on things that we don't even know what the price are. So we're just going to hold off on that for right now. Our new stuff, is that going to mean that newer things are going to get produced faster? I can't answer that either because, again, we've never been here before. Anybody that's been watching the news knows that this is affecting both China and the United States in different ways. And for China, being mainly a production centered country, a lot of factories and such have slowed production or in some cases stopped altogether. So yeah, it's hard for me to answer this without sounding overtly political, but at the same time, I want to give you guys as much information as possible so that you know what's going on. But at the same time, my bosses have never been here before. This is all new waters. Let's see. Railfan wants to know any possibility of an AC 600 CW. Not right away. Not right away. You weren't listening. However, that doesn't mean that there's still something you can do. You can go and send us an email, product suggestion. That still works. And you can say, I want an AC 6000. You can go to Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. That's the email that goes directly to our product development. And you can ask for new road names. You can ask for new projects, anything like that. So just because we're kind of in limbo right now with the tariffs, you can still send in your suggestions. We're still reading those, and we're still working on stuff behind the scenes. This is actually a point where we can really start looking at what we want to come out with when this finally goes away. Train Jack, same thing with ETAs. Anybody that's got a question on ETAs, we're still going with the original dates, but again, that could change. I mean, if this tariff thing goes on for more weeks or more months, that's all going to change. So I'm not going to be able to give you a firm date on when something's going to come in. Let's see, Terry wanting to know because the pre-orders I'm waiting on NS 1065 those tank containers. Yeah, same thing. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. Zed, the NP15 ACs, if you pre-ordered those, you should have that by now. I believe we started shipping those. Those should be shipping. So contact your dealer. If they don't know what's going on, if they're a Horizon dealer, have them contact their sales rep, because I do believe we did a program on that a couple of weeks ago before they got here, and they are here now as far as I know. Let's see what else we've got. Derek says, I plan on getting the Prime for Grime green with primer F-850. Cool. Sounds like he's got some ideas on there. Be cool to see that. I'm going back just to see if there's any questions while I went on my explanation of what's going on. Charles says, hey, Jim, I'm happy for the IC trailer. I just wish there would be some family lines and L&N and Seaboard Coastline piggyback trailers and N-scale. Well, shoot us an email at Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com, and that might get you in the next run. Let's see. Railfan, good idea. BN90 stripe nose SD40-2s, modified plow lights, and nose light. That'd be cool. Shoot us an email. Is Athearn going to open a warehouse in Canada? Wow, if they are, nobody's told me. Nobody's told me about that. I don't think so. Yeah, guys, ETAs again. You didn't hear me. Guys asking for ETAs. When's this coming? When's this coming? we don't really know. I can give you a date, but it's probably going to change because everything is pretty much in limbo right now. Any updates on the Mac license? Man, I wish I did. I don't. I don't. I did ask Mark. You may have seen Mark at some of the shows that I go to, like Amherst and Train Fest. He is basically, he's the one that herds the kittens. He tells product development what to do. He tells me what to do, and he's pretty much running Athearn from behind the scenes. And he's also our guy that works with licensing. And as of yet, I asked him, and he said he hasn't really made any headway. That's the problem with licensing, is it can take quite a while. Um, Same with GMC, Harold. That's another one. I would like to see some GM products as well, just to kind of round out the different vehicles that we have. But BN Green 1970, I'm glad you brought this up. So, Jim, the website still shows the Genesis reefers you talked about last week as out of stock. Any idea when you expect those to ship, and did they get stateside before the tariff launch? So, one of the things I've learned, we do have folks working on the ETAs on the website. One of the things I've learned is we are shipping things to our dealers first before making them available on our website. So remember me saying that the HO scale Fruehaufs have started shipping. I can think of one or two larger hobby shops that already have these on their website. If you go to their website, you'll see them on their main page. But if you go to our Athearn website right now by selecting one of the links down below, you'll see the same thing. It's the message is coming shortly or something of that nature. We're trying to serve the dealers first, and then anything that's left over from the dealers, then we'll put them to our website, because we really are dealer based and we want you to go to the dealer. So if you didn't pre-order, contact one of those dealers, because those reefers are indeed in stock. Railfan 1995, another good question. Can you make BN SD60Ms, please? I never liked the Triclops. We have been talking about that for a number of years, and it's just a matter of time that we will. We did the Triclops first because they're kind of a unique locomotive, but yeah, we'll be doing those in Genesis at some point. BN Green 1970 says, I remember the track crews on BN using the stake bed F-850s back in the late 1970s. I may need to pick one up. Very cool. There we go. Michael is confirming Spring Creek had some. So yes, they're out there. Let's see. Thought we had some new questions. Glenn, thanks for understanding about the tariffs. Yeah, this is maddening for a lot of us manufacturers. We're not alone. There's other manufacturers, even outside the model railroad industry, that it's I've learned more about tariffs in the last 3 weeks than I care to learn. Let's see. I'm just going back to see if there's any other questions that I was missed while answering another one. John, I'm going to put this up here because it bears repeating. I model to escape political and other egos. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's one of those things where we are monitoring the social media, and if it turns political, I don't care who you voted for. If it turns political, we just delete it. We're not going to put up with it. This is the hand that we've been dealt. The hand that we've been dealt, and this is how we're reacting to it. I realize not everybody out there is extremely happy with the way Athearn handled it, but that's always going to be the case. When you have a manufacturer that's been around for over 75 years, we're not always going to do something exactly the way you think we should do it. But we have to take a stance and we have to let you know as a consumer. To just forget about it and make it think that it's going to go away if we don't talk about it would not be transparent. That's one thing that we try to do. Again, we're not a perfect company. We're just showing you what we're dealing with. And right now, unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of unknowns. Zach wants to know, will this be bad for companies but good for the used market? Possibly. Possibly, but don't expect used market to be that much cheaper. I mean, we've seen that with full scale vehicles. During the first supply and demand problem we had after COVID-19, we saw used car sales values go way up and in some cases have not recovered. This could be the same thing. So, yeah, it's one of those things that if you're looking for something specific for your layout, you might want to look at it now because again, we're in uncharted waters. I really don't know what's going to happen. We are doing everything in our power, and Horizon, of course, is doing everything in their power. That when this does come to fruition, when they do come with a deciding factor of how we're going to deal with this going forward, we're going to do our best to still make this hobby affordable. I know I'm going to get lit up in the comment section for that, but it's true. We try our best to make it affordable for everybody. Let's see. Terry says, good time to work on some quality issues like missing brake wheels on ore cars. Well, I certainly hope you contacted our service department. One thing that I will personally, I can't stand is somebody that, and I'm not accusing you of this, by the way, I'm just using this as an example. One of the things I can't stand as a modeler or an automotive guy is somebody buying something from some said manufacturer shop and then just taking to social media and saying all kinds of things about it when they haven't contacted. Now, Terry, I'm sure you're smarter than that. You've probably contacted our service department, but just in case you haven't, I want to give you an email address that you can contact them. It's Athearn Help at horizonhobby.com. Again, it's Athearn, then help, no space, at horizonhobby.com. And, again, we're not perfect. Stuff happens like that. So if you bought these cars and they don't have the brake wheels, contact us at that email and we'll be able to set you up. You did no answer. Well, then I'll be talking to service tomorrow. I mean, we'll see why we haven't. I mean, as far as I know, everybody is in the office, so I'll try to remember this tomorrow when I'm working on this video, and I'll ask them to reach out to you. So sorry about that, Terry. You did what you're supposed to do. Let's see. I'm reading a question here. I'm just making sure I'm reading it right. Oh, okay. So Jason says, Jim, I missed the pre-ordering of my Athearn GP15 with my hobby shop. Is there a way I could try to pre-order? Yeah, depending on what locomotive you're specifically looking for, there are some other shops out there that may have that in stock. You can go through Athearn.com. I would highly suggest, though, going through some of the larger online shops. There's a possibility that they purchase deeper so that they had store stock, and they might have one of those. And last case, you can try Athearn.com. If that's not successful, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to wait for the next announcement or, secondhand market, trade shows, things of that nature. Yeah, the Suit Line GP15. Yeah, you're going to be kind of hard pressed to find that one, I think. But check out some of the larger dealers, and they can probably help you out. Let's see what else we've got. Bill says, I want that B&M sign. I can't remember who manufactured them, but I can tell you this much. If you go to the Athearn show, the guy's always set up. He'll do any railroad sign you want. I just have this one because the layout behind me is Boston to Maine. The layout in front of me that you can't see yet is currently Conrail. Yep, Michael's giving you some suggestions on where you can get some of those. So yeah, we're watching the tariff thing pretty much daily. We have leadership watching that. We're doing what we can. We do have stuff that has already started shipping, and that was before the tariff thing. So you can see the prices on the hobby shop prices. The prices that you see at Athearn.com, those are what we call our street price. Dealers will typically have a lower price than what we advertise on our website. Going back a little bit, if you got any other questions on that, now as far as ETAs, I can't help you. Steven's really liking the rubber tires on Athearn new truck trailers. Yeah, and that's true on both HO and N scale. Railfan 1995, we will bring back the Amtrak Cascade 90 scheme. Probably will. It's been a little bit since we did that. A lot of suggestions. Charles wants to know, hey, is there going to be a factory in Mexico? I don't think so. I don't think so. Steven, I keep meaning to reach out to you. I did get your email address about a week ago. I will reach out to you at some point because I do know that you're head of a group and you do a lot of writing for them. I'll reach out to you. Unfortunately, I don't have anything for you right now just because we're kind of in limbo. Ronald, thanks a lot for that. We appreciate it. The guys behind me that you don't see, they do all the hard and heavy lifting. They're the guys that are actually designing this stuff. And they are always busy, even though what's going on is kind of given this, us a break. They're still busy working on stuff that we're going to be announcing later on when this is all over. Terry, unfortunately, we've already done our show budget for the year, but maybe next year. We've had a lot of requests for that show. And honestly, we don't have any real good shows in the southern portion. We've got Amherst, of course, up north. We occasionally have a show on the West Coast. Of course, the Midwest is well represented at least once a year with Train Fest. But yeah, we would like to have a southern show. So maybe next year we can see if we can sneak that in there. Let's see. Will there be another run of the 53-foot three-set spine cars for semi-trailers? I think we've got some coming here pretty soon. I think we just I can't remember the date that the original ETA was, but they were supposed to be here, I think, before the fall. Mike says, I noticed the chassis on the Athearn Jeeps looked a lot more like Blue Box Roundhouse. Is that going to be the way forward for non-Genesis locos? So which Jeeps are we talking about? So you're talking about the Athearn, formerly called the Ready to Roll line. Yeah, they do have some similarities to the old Blue Box. However, there's some different updates to them, like area for the speaker enclosure, things of that nature. Are they based on those? Well, yeah, they're based on those, but they're not exactly copies of Blue Box. But yeah, pretty much the Athearn and the Roundhouse. If you look at the Roundhouse F7s, they look remarkably like the original Athearn Blue Box chassis. A little bit of a change, but for the most part, yeah, they're going to look like that. Genesis is going to be a lot more detail, so those chassis are put together differently because they have to support more detail. Most recent announcement, yeah, that's true. Oh, so you're talking about what was it, the 38-2s that we talked about a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, they're very similar to the blue box, but they've been updated so that they can have sound. That was the big update to those specific locomotives, and that's what we're going to probably be seeing going forward. I think that was what you were trying to get at. BN Green says, I appreciate the Friday emails. If you don't subscribe to that or recommend it, thank you, BN. In fact, I've got to hurry up and write that for this week. If you don't know what he's talking about, every week I write up a newsletter. And it's just a real brief newsletter because I know your inbox gets filled with all kinds of stuff. I want something that you can look at quickly. And if you're interested, you can be directed to a website. Basically, what I do is I talk about the pre-orders, and then I talk about what's in stock or coming soon. And then sometimes I'll post stuff, what's Athearn up to? Maybe I'm working on a new model. Maybe Janik is working on some neat paint schemes, and he's going to show us some stuff that's going to be coming out down the road. Or maybe John's got some cool CAD drawings he wants to share. We just kind of show what's going on around Athearn, and we let you become a part of it. And then, of course, we also recap Train Tuesday. That's for folks that may not be familiar with the YouTube channel or the live feed. And it's just a good way to kind of circle back and see what's going on at Athearn. So if you haven't done that, you can go to our website at www.athearn.com. At the top of your page, you'll see a banner pop up with a beautiful Cascade Green SD60M and say sign up for the newsletter. If that pop-up doesn't come up and you still want to sign up for the newsletter, just scroll all the way to the bottom of our page on the home page, and you'll see a place where you can enter your email and hit submit, and then you're automatically signed up for our email. David, never. I am from New England, and once a New Englander, always a New Englander. I drink water, I park my car, and we call them blinkers, not indicators. Sorry, I'm from New England, and I do not apologize for that. Stephen, thank you very much for that compliment. We do appreciate it. This is just another way to stay informed with Athearn. Something else that we're working on, we're going to start working on a text system. You can sign up for text. Now, we're still working on it. It's in development. But if you want to know about something like, we're not going to have any announcements this week, you can sign up for text alerts. So keep your eyes open on that. We'll be posting it on social media when that's ready to go, and we'll be talking about it on our newsletter. Yeah, that's how I grew up. Central New Hampshire. Years of speech therapy. Trust me, when I go to work after because I live in New Hampshire, I just work in Illinois. When I come back from an extended stay, nobody in the office can understand me. And that's why I don't go to fast food, because nobody in central Illinois knows what I'm saying when I go through a drive up. They think Adam Sandler's there or something. Let's see, for a list of shows, stay tuned. If you look at the top of our website, athearn.com, I try to put a blurb in there of what shows we're going to be at next. Railfan wants to know, how about some -9 or -8s? I don't know. Send us a product suggestion. We'll see what happens. I know we're going a little bit longer tonight, but since this is the last live feed till October, I figured I'd give you some guys some time to ask some questions. I'm really surprised. There are some questions I thought I'd see tonight, and I'm not seeing them, so I'm not going to complain. Let's see what else people have got. Harry's HO scale, good question. Any chance of Athearn offering Blue Nami as a decoder option to go along with Tsunami? It would save quite a bit for people that prefer that decoder. You're not the only one, Harry, that's asked that question. That's a great question. It's something that we're considering. We're looking into it. Just like anything else, there's some logistics there that you may not have thought about. Does that mean that now we're going to offer locomotives DCC ready, Tsunami 2, and Blue Nami? So typically, that would go from 2 SKUs per locomotive to 3. Or are we just going to concentrate on Blue Nami? The other thing that we got to think about too is Blue Nami is a little bit different size. It's a physical size difference than Tsunami 2. Although in some cases it would probably be just a drop-in fit. There are other cases where smaller locomotives, say switchers, you don't have as much room. That would require some product development time to work on those chassis to make it work. And then the last thing that we have to think about is the cost. Blue Nami is going to be more expensive than Tsunami 2, but if it's already installed in the locomotive, most folks probably don't mind. So those are the three things that we're looking into. We haven't come to any solid conclusions yet, but of course, since Soundtracks is a partner, that's something that we're always going to look into. And who knows, maybe down the road we might offer them. JD Boyd says, how do you do that? No, I fly. No, I don't fly. Illinois is, I'll just tell you this much, Illinois is cheaper to rent in than to buy in. So no, I usually spend, you'll see on some Train Tuesdays, you'll see the background is different. I spend 90% of my time in Illinois, and I spend a small percentage in New Hampshire, usually at a month at a time or so. So no big deal. Let's see what else we've got. It's funny, I opened a can of worms with the whole dialect thing. And I don't mean those robots from Doctor Who. Yeah, no, I can't pronounce that either. Chehalis Western, yeah. Every little part of the country in Canada, there's different ways to pronounce stuff. Jason saying, I know in Chattanooga I would see some Fruehauf trailers in Southern Railway. Alas, some have missed the landing gears, tires, and Mansfield bars. Those would make great storage when retired. Yeah, that's true. That's something we've talked about on this program too, because just because they're old doesn't mean they can't be used. I've seen them used as billboards. I've seen them used as storage containers. I actually have an acquaintance in New Hampshire that has a bunch of 40-foot trailers that he uses to store a lot of his tractor and engine parts. Harold, exactly. Go for it. I'm always a fan of the orange and white. Yeah, I can tell where you're from if you can say this correctly. First time I heard somebody from Illinois try to pronounce Worcester, I just, yeah. So there you go. Illinois pronounces it Worcester. Yeah. All right. One or two more questions, and I'm going to let you go. And like I said, um, this is the last Train Tuesday that's live until October. We did get a few complaints on that and saying, why don't you do that? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, summertime is when a lot of us start alternating and taking vacations, and Athearn's not that big of a team, so we'll sometimes support the other Athearn member that is out. The other thing too is our metrics for summertime goes down. Most people are busy doing outdoor things. Myself, as much as I'd like to say I was rail fanning this past weekend, I was doing yard work. So I'm not behind the bench. I'm not getting as much done as I normally do in the wintertime. So we just do it as a pre-recorded because that way you can catch the episodes when you have time. So you're not, being taken away from the busy stuff. Now, the other thing too is we are going to be doing some live feeds throughout the summer, though. I'm hoping to get some live feeds out maybe once or twice a month. We'll see how it goes. So you can still have that interaction with us. And of course, again, as we're going through all this stuff with the tariffs, we're going to do our best to keep you informed as to what's going on. I also want to keep you informed of what's coming and what we're working on and that kind of stuff. So don't forget to watch our social media. We'll post on there whenever there's a new live feed this summer. Let's see. We do too. Let's see. Some of you guys have a great sense of humor, and I appreciate that. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing your name right. Phlox. I always think of the guy from the Star Trek series Enterprise. Wasn't he the doctor? Heads up, if you order ATH 90118, these are dog bones for the SD40-2s. They are not the right size. This is a known issue. He has talked to Athearn Techs, and yeah, we are working on that. It just came up last week. I don't know if you were the first one to order one in a while, but they are off. We are working on getting that corrected. Hopefully, we'll have an answer for you soon. But yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think we are pretty much done for the evening. I will let you guys get back to some modeling. You know, one of the things too, I didn't have it on display tonight because I didn't get as far as I wanted to in the last few weeks, but I am working on an HO layout. Briefly, it is called a Connecticut Yankee and Corn Kings court. It is basically my version of the Peoria and Eastern in central Illinois as it appeared from anywhere from 1967 all the way to its current state. You can check me out personally at Wigan Locomotive Works, my YouTube channel, and I'm hoping to start showing that layout more on that channel on a personal thing. Until then, hopefully by October, we'll actually have that layout functional and camera ready so that you can see more cool stuff from Athearn. We'll still have the N-scale layout, of course. And like I said, stay tuned to our social media. One last thing, one reminder, if you're on our social media, be kind to people. You may not agree with everything that's being said, but there's no reason to be being mean to each other and calling each other names. We're all in this together at the end of the day. So let's be kind to one another. Let's try to do some good modeling. Even though it's summer, if you're like me, I don't like the heat. I mean, I'm from New Hampshire. We never get above 80. Get inside, work on some modeling. And above all, thank you for joining me tonight. And thank you for your support. And until next time, high greens, everyone. Good night.